My father collected stuff. My grandfather collected stuff. My kids collect stuff. We love objects. We love shape. We love forms. I find it in the most obscure places. On Fifth Avenue in New York City, I found it in antique stores, in junk stores, in flea markets. I just love to collect objects and early technology from the 18th century, the 17th century. I have a collection of mouse traps. There's just something about the act of discovery of seeing technology in its earlier forms that fascinates me. Finally, after years of talking about photographing some of the objects and things that we've collected, I finally began to photograph them. Once the object has come through whatever source we found it from, made it into the studio, onto the table, once the act of discovery has been consummated by the exposure, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I no longer need to possess that item anymore, and thank God, because my wife doesn't want to see the stuff around the house anymore. So when I came across this Psaltery instrument, I had really never heard of one before, or even seen anything like that. It has its roots in ancient Greece. It was created by a craftsman who was interested in the 19th century. He was interested in the Civil War. It actually was an instrument that was played in a very haunting way in the Civil War. And as soon as I heard the sound of that instrument, I became fascinated with it. And I thought, here we are mixing art, technology, craftsmanship to create a photograph. And, I think that's a pretty cool way to spend your day working. We set up the instrument on the background first, and the first thing I would do after that is set up some lighting. So, I had this idea for this modulated lighting and that I'd always admired from nature, and try to figure out how to create it. And luckily, we discovered shower curtains at the local bed and bath store, and by complete accident, I had seen one on display. One of the store display lights was shining through it onto the floor of the store, and I looked at it and went, wow, I could bring that into my studio and try to do something similar, because it reminded me of the same light that I had seen in chapels in Florence. So I bought the $5 shower curtain and brought it back to the studio and thought, wow, if I put one of these SB strobes behind it, I could probably create some dappled light that would be interesting and certainly wide enough to cover the entire area of the scene that I was trying to do. So that became an act of discovery by accident. As an artist, as a photographer, as a hoarder, mostly I hoard for the purposes of dreaming about creating images. But I think the most important part of any photograph, any object as a still life, because that's what I do, still life photography, is to follow your instincts. If you follow your instincts and you really think an object has some beauty to it, whether it's intrinsic or otherwise, put it down on the table, put your camera in front of it, put your lens in front of it, look through the camera, put the lights around it, experiment, make it an act of discovery, and then the next one will become an act of experience. For years, I've been lassoed to heavy studio strobes, heavy tungsten lights. They're hot, they're clumsy to use. Now I'm using the Nikon SB-900s. They're lightweight, they're easy to work with. They're controlled by a remote commander from the camera. I can adjust the power individually. Both of these lights are focused through a very simple glass block kind of shower curtain material that you buy at the houseware store. Between the ease of the SB-900s to set up and use and the computer screen that we're working with, I can push the button, shoot a picture, see it right away, know exactly whether I need to raise or lower or where I need to put my light, go back, take another shot, and within a few frames I've got everything I need. Now back here we have another fill light. Again, it's shining through a different kind of shower curtain material just to give it a different appearance, a different kind of modulation. In the back I'm using the SB-600. I don't need quite as much power back here, so I have this set on half power. And what it's doing is it's just filling in back here, it's modulating the light over the surface, and it's giving me the illumination that's covering this area of the photograph. But the neat part is that I'm using this screen to block even half of this amount of light so that it doesn't quite kick up as much illumination to keep the shadows down, so that we're not really seeing a strong, long shadow here, even though the light is at a very low angle, which traditionally would create a longer shadow. We're using the low angle to rake the light over the surface of the scene to get the maximum texture, but this little screen here is blocking the lower portion of the light, so in doing so, it's also blocking the shadows so that we don't have a strong shadow over there. Now, this is really the best part, because I originally had a fill card in here, but there wasn't quite enough light with a fill card to do what I wanted, for the final picture. So the first thing I did is I added another SB-900, but I'm diffusing it, breaking it up through this glass block, and that creates a really nice modulated look. It complements the kind of shower curtain material that we're using. It's a similar kind of a light that it's going to focus the light onto the subject. But still, the shadows were still a little too deep. When I looked at the picture, you could see shadows coming from a different direction, several different directions, and I didn't want it, but I love the quality of light that it was all creating. So, I mean, this is the insane part. We just pop up another SB-900, tape a piece of card on there instantly. They weigh nothing. They're easy to move around. And I pointed it straight up at this card. The light bounced off the card and just filled all the shadows perfectly. As I walk around the set, if I see an area that needs more illumination, again, I can either move my light around through the glass brick, or I can just pop another light up anywhere instantly. With a wireless remote, I don't have to worry about slaves or syncing or wires or anything, and it's a really neat way to work. Because we have lighting coming from all different directions to illuminate the different shapes, I'm very conscious of trying to have the appearance of one or two directions of light. 3 directions of light would make the shadows very confusing, and it would make the picture much more confusing. So the lighting setup is arranged in a way and flagged and diffused in a way to allow me to have some control over the shadows, so that they're falling in as close in the same direction as I can make them, and keep the light interesting as well. Now we're going to use the live view feature. Totally amazing way to build a still life like this, because you can see what you're doing while you're making your adjustments, especially if you want everything symmetrical sometimes and in balance. So I'm going to just move this currency over to square it up. And I can see it right as I'm doing it, right on the live view screen. That is really a great feature. Well, I wanted to fit some more tintypes in here, but I don't see any more room left. It didn't become a challenge to light these subjects. It became kind of like a pleasure to light these subjects. It was great because every object that got added into that scene, into that lighting, into that environment that we created from found objects, shower curtain material from the bath store, all of a sudden turned into art, technology, and a vision that I had that had a lot of harmony to it. Had a lot of fidelity to it. It had a lot of color to it. It had shape to it. I could hear the music.